we're worthy because we're human. We're worthy of purpose in our life. And, we're being called to different purposes in our life. And our worthiness does not depend on have we achieved that purpose today or not? No. It's the fact that we're worthy of even having one.
Welcome back. I am so excited about this show. Sometimes you have a conversation with someone and you're like, this is the best. I'm never going to top this. Kind of feel that way today. Today, I'm with Niro Feliciano, and she's delightful. She's a new friend of mine. We quickly went from conversation to text level friends because you know how you talk to somebody and you're like, you're the greatest. I think she's the greatest. So she is a new friend. I'm just telling you all the behind the scenes. She is absolutely brilliant. I'm such a fan of her work. You're going to learn about what we need to know as women, especially Christian women, about self-worth, what we need to know about confidence. How is social media affecting this? What do we need to know about contentment? What do we need to know about the habits that we have every day and what they're doing to our hearts and our brains? This is a good one. This is the perfect example of why I do this show and why I'm so obsessed with our emotional health going in with our spiritual health, because everything we do matters. All the little steps that you're taking to improve emotionally, improve spiritually, and even with your health, it matters. It adds up because you are valuable. You are important for you because you're you, but for you because of everyone's lives that you touch. So I hope you listen to this one twice. I hope you watch this one on YouTube. This is a fun one. Okay, without further ado, here's my new friend, Niro. Okay, so if for the rest of your life, with all of the vast knowledge and wisdom that you have, if you could only tell women one thing for the rest of your life, what would you tell them? What's the statement? What's the truth?
Oh, you need to get some sleep. I think that's honestly, I mean, maybe that's the stage of life that I'm in right now where I'm not sleeping and then seeing all the research on sleep. Nothing works without sleep. We try and make it work, but it doesn't. But we see the world so much more differently. We're calmer, we're less reactive, we feel better, and then all the other parts kind of fall into place. So, off the top of my head, that's what I would say. That's what I would say.
I love that. Actually, after we record, I'm recording a whole episode on a deep dive on sleep because
Yes.
sleep is such an issue. When I'm coaching my clients, whether she's an entrepreneur or she's leading a company, I always say, how are you sleeping? And most women go, oh, the kids, the dog, work. I mean, we are killing ourselves with lack of sleep.
We are. And I think we're the same age, Allie, you and I. I am full, like, head in to perimenopause. So the sleep thing is real. I'm like, this is a joke. Like, my kids are grown. I should not be up at night like I was when they were infants.
I had a friend over for dinner and I said, are you waking up at 3 a.m. or 3:30? She
Yeah.
goes, yes. And I was like, you need HRT. Progesterone will fix that for you.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing now is I can't drink alcohol at night, no wine. So I'm like, okay, I get the day drinkers because if you can have a margarita at like noon, then you might sleep at night, right? So no judgment anymore for day drinkers. No.
As soon as I got my Aura ring and I ate before bed, I woke up the next morning and my ring was like, did you have food before bed? I'm like, son of a gun. Yes.
It knows.
I guess this is a real thing. Yeah.
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. Yes.
That's great. Okay. You also have the training and the wisdom and the experience to write the book and have the knowledge. So when the doors open, you go through. There's something about women, especially women who are believers. We are so afraid of becoming prideful when we've had a lot of success that sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit that, yes, God gave us the intelligence and the ability to work and work hard and do it. And when he opened the door, I was able to step through.
Yeah. 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 I will agree with that. I do the work, and I'm a big believer in being ready for that moment, to step into it for sure. But I do have to talk to my own internal narrative and say, no, you are the expert. Own it, own it right now. That's not a natural thing for me if I'm working with someone else in their life. it's different. You know, I see an issue, I see a problem, I know how to lead them through it. But yeah, to step into those places and own that moment. I had someone tell me that, you know. In fact, it was so funny. She was not a believer, not a believer. She was a media coach. Before I started any media, all I did was one session with a media coach. I'm like, this sounds like a good idea.
Smart.
Not knowing what was going to happen after that, you know. And somewhere in that session, she said to me, your crown has been paid for, wear it. And I was like, whoa, you don't know how that spoke to me. She really didn't
No.
know,
She
you
had no
know?
idea.
She did not know. And that's come back to me at different points. You know, and it means so many different things to me. Definitely paid for the education too, you know? So, I mean, on many different levels, but that was really a profound statement. I held on to it.
Totally. And I think it would be refreshing for other people to hear you say, oh, I still have to work on my self-talk. I still
Mm.
have to learn to give myself credit, because I think it's such a common feeling. And we always assume that other people, especially if they've reached the level of expert and have a lot of experience and are helping other people, like you're helping your clients, that's not an issue anymore.
So I'm going to tell you how stupid my self-talk is. I'm just going to put it out there, right? So I did a segment yesterday on the Today Show.
Mm-hmm.
Happy with the content. What I focused on was this piece of hair that was out of place the entire time. And I was like, why didn't I fix that? Like, I knew that I need to do that before we go on, you know? I like didn't even listen to what I said, which was solid. But I was so fixated on the hair, and I was like, I literally had to say, "Mrs. Like, no one cares about the hair. Like, don't, it doesn't matter, you know?" So I will say, like, very genuinely, my self-talk is stupid sometimes, and I have to address it. I have to address it. But I think for women, because we're held up to these standards in society all the time, because we look at things in social media, because we see experts that have more experience than us, or maybe more opportunities or whatever, we're judging ourselves by those standards. We're faced with criticism all the time, and we internalize the criticism. It becomes our self-talk, right? So we have to be aware of it. And I am aware of it. So that's a good part of being a therapist. I'm aware of it, but sometimes I'm like, I, I got to change this now. Do I want to? Maybe not. Maybe I don't have the energy today, but I need to change it. So yes.
I love that you were so honest. I'm going to be terribly honest too. So, Today Show twice, Good Morning America twice. I have
Yes.
never, ever seen a segment.
You've never watched your
I've never
segments?
watched it.
Oh,
Never watched it.
really?
Never.
Why?
I have
What
never
makes you
watched
not watch it?
any TV. Nothing. I've never
Okay.
watched a speaking engagement video. I've never watched an appearance.
Huh.
Would
Okay.
never in a million years. I think I would just pick myself apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I get it. Because if I watched, I would be worried about my hair too. And I'd be like, why did I do that with my face? And
Yeah.
why am I
Yeah.
holding my body that way? So yeah, it's all of us. I get it.
Okay, I'm gonna push back on you
Okay.
now.
Okay.
Okay, I'd be curious to see if you just take one of those segments and watch it back and watch it almost like, okay, I'm critiquing this, not critiquing this, but I'm watching this for a friend. This is not me, this is a friend.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna focus on and take notes on everything that person did well.
Oh, okay. I could try that.
I'd be curious. What is that like for you?
Okay, I'll try it. I'll
Right?
try it and I'll be curious about it
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
try not to pick myself apart. You're very good at this. This is
Oh,
weird.
let's circle back on that. I'd like to hear more. I would, because I probably need to do the same.
Yeah.
And I've gotten better at being like, okay, that was good. But the hair, man, it really
Hair will
bothered
mess
me
you up.
yesterday.
Hair will mess you
I
up.
know it did, especially for curly-haired people who are wearing it straight that day. You know,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
so
Because those curls will sneak up on you. Every time
that's
I've
right.
had my makeup and hair done, they always wanna know if I want my hair straight, and it's always the default,
Mm, hmm
"Do you want me to straighten your hair?" And I always say,
hmm
"No." And
No,
everyone's
no.
always shocked. So, I have a lot of feelings being a curly hair girl, but that's a topic for another
No, I love your curly hair and I connect with you on that. The only reason it's straight for me is because I need to leave my house at 5 in the morning. Curly hair takes time.
curly
You
hair does
know,
take time.
it takes
If you
time. So
wash it.
If you wash it, right.
Yeah.
I should really do that. We'll talk about that. I need to do it the
Yeah.
night before. Yeah.
We'll share notes. Okay. I want to talk kind of broader picture about women. You have a quote from your book that I love. I'm going to read you this quote and
Mm,
just let you riff on it. The problem with self-esteem as we know it today is that it's almost entirely or it's almost solely based on comparison and achievement. We derive our sense of worth by looking at others and evaluating how we are doing in comparison to them. Talk about that a little bit.
mm. You know, it's interesting because I'm seeing this in the life of my teenagers too,
Mm-hmm.
and they're struggling. You know, and I live in Fairfield County, Connecticut, which if anyone's read Jennifer Wallace's Never Enough, she did her research on that book about kids struggling with anxiety and depression and achievement in my area, in the town that I'm sitting in right now where my office is. So, and are really intertwined. As we get older, it's acquisition. How much do we have? Achievement. How much are we doing? You know, and for women, I think there's an aesthetic component of it that, you know, our society has conditioned us to believe where our worth lies. It is what we say evaluative, right? Our self-esteem is evaluative. And later on in the book, I talk about self-compassion and how the difference between self-compassion and self-esteem, and how self-esteem as we know it is based on comparison. You know, if I'm doing well or achieving or I look good, I'm feeling good about myself. If I'm not, our self-esteem goes down. But self-compassion is different. It's a different way of thinking of worth, right? And also makes sense if you are a believer, if faith is a piece of your identity or central to your identity, to think about worthiness as unconditional. You know, it's not based on how much I do or how much I achieve. And that is going to fluctuate on a daily basis, depending on how much I've slept, you know? So think about it as we're worthy because we're human. We're worthy of purpose in our life. And, you know, we're being called to different purposes in our life. And our worthiness does not depend on have we achieved that purpose today or not? No, it's a fact that we're worthy of even having one, you know, so it's different. But yes, it's the comparison game, you know, all day long. And especially when comparison is at your fingertips, when comparison is addictive because we get dopamine hits from it, unless we're intentionally trying to limit it or put it down, it is going to be ingrained into our psyche and how we look at ourselves.
Yeah, I think more and more research will come out in the next 10 years that shows just how damaging social media is. When I
Mm,
wrote a book called Breaking Busy back, it came out in 2018, so I wrote it 2016, and I cited research, it was just Facebook research back then, that showed that the more time people spent on Facebook, the worse they felt. More
yes.
comparison, more unhappy, more unsatisfied with their lives. That's going on 10 years ago that research was done. I can't
Hmm.
imagine what it's doing now. And for me, I had to change the way I use social media and I quit following most people.
Yes.
So there's just a few people that show up in my feed. Anyone that triggered comparison, I had to mute or unfollow.
So
So
smart.
because social media isn't truly social anymore.
No,
It
no.
is, let me open up this thing that's going to hurt me psychologically.
Mm, mm,
Or it's going to use up all of my dopamine that I have saved up
yes.
in my body. And then I'm not going to be motivated to do anything else because my brain doesn't want to work that hard because I've been given these hits quickly. So that's had to save me from it. But I think it's really dangerous what it's doing to, I mean, me as a woman in my 40s, I can't imagine what it's doing to young girls. We have that on top of the self-worth issue that you just talked about. Self-worth is so key for my work as a business coach. Self-worth is a bigger bottleneck than women than not having the tools and the skills to move forward in their companies or with their own businesses.
Mm,
Because there's this underlying belief that I'm not worth it. Maybe I'm not able to take my company where it is to go, where I want it to go. I am not the woman who was meant to take this role in the company, whatever it is. And no one ever wakes up one morning and goes, I think it's just a self-worth issue. What I hear a lot of women say is, I don't know if I'm up for it. I don't know if I'm meant to do this. I don't know if I can, but they don't realize that so much underneath that is just an inherent worthiness issue. Will
Worthiness.
you riff on that
Yeah.
a little bit?
Yeah. So let me just backtrack a little bit about social media and what we do know now and what more people are in the field are talking about. And this came out of research from a professor named Anna Lemke. She wrote the book Dopamine Nation, which was a New York Times bestseller. And what I had observed in practice is anytime I treated a patient with anxiety, and I've treated anxiety for 20 years, one of the things I would say is go off social media for 10 days, a week to 10 days. And to this day, I have yet to have a patient come back saying, I don't feel better. They always said, oh, I feel a lot better, right? And I automatically thought that it was because of comparison. We've eliminated comparison. But what you hit on in terms of the dopamine hit is really significant. And what happens in the brain is when you're getting those high levels of dopamine all the time, what the body does is it actually compensates for that by taking your dopamine, downregulating dopamine receptors and putting you in a dopamine deficit. And that's to maintain that balance, that homeostasis. So it drops it low so it can bring you back to a normal level. But when we're getting that pervasively, we're constantly fighting this deficit. And in that deficit low state is where we see more anxiety, more depression, more suicidal ideation. So when you were talking about those young girls, think about how much they're looking at that stuff and why now with girls, we're seeing more anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. I guarantee you, if you have a middle schooler on up, and definitely more than two kids in your house or two, someone has had a suicidal thought because it's that common now. We're seeing it all over, not meaning their intent, not meaning they're going to act on it, but they've thought about this thought about it's not worth living. How do I get out of this? Because that's the level it's hijacking their neural pathways. So yes, it's a worthiness issue, but this is a big component of it that we don't talk about much that's putting us in that state constantly. So worthiness, absolutely. Again, comparison, thinking I'm not enough, I don't have enough. Those two things underlie the worthiness. And where's it coming from? We're comparing ourselves to, what we see, the small snapshot of what we see, or numbers, right? How successful is this person? How many followers do they have? What opportunities do they have? And we're not thinking about impact, right? Impact is not directly correlated to numbers. It's not. You can have someone, for example, on social media who doesn't have a huge platform. I actually don't have a huge platform on social media. It's small. So a friend of mine who, Sissy Goff and I were talking, she was like, Niro, but the reason people have a big platform is so they have the opportunities you have. I was like, I don't know. It doesn't work like that for me. It doesn't work like that for me. So I always think, what's the impact that I'm having and on who? And isn't it as meaningful to have impact profoundly on like 5 or 10 people, right? Can you change a life like that? We don't have to impact 10,000, 100,000, whatever it is. Some people do. That's what they're called to. But we have to think of worthiness differently, not as measurable in the standards that we are looking at it from our cultural viewpoint.
Yeah. One of the most dangerous things for our psyche is the gamified social media system. How, social media was designed like a slot machine where you pull it down and you get something exciting each time. But the problem is when you get something exciting each time, it makes you feel worse about yourself, A, but B, just what you described, the process of what it does to your brain, the more we use it, the more we will procrastinate, the less motivated we'll be to do things that actually make us feel good.
Yeah.
And, am I saying no one should use social media? Absolutely not. But we need to look at social media like we look at an Oreo. I love an Oreo, but I don't need to eat 50 Oreos a day. It will make me, that first Oreo is great. But by the time you get to the fourth or fifth, you're like, Oreos. And we need to really be careful about how we use it because I think it's doing so much more damage than we know.
Yeah. And an interesting thing that I've seen is the best predictor of how your kids are going to use their phones is your phone usage because we've modeled it. And I still am working on that. I have to be mindful and remind myself okay, look, my child is actually talking to me. I need to get off my phone right now. It's not innate, especially when you have 4 kids, because someone's always talking to you.
Always.
Right? Someone's always talking to you. Like if we don't ignore them sometimes, like we wouldn't get things done. So, but especially as they get older, it's the reality of it.
That's so good. Now, you have written a terrific book. Let's talk about
Thank
what
you.
we need to know about happiness versus contentment. And as you were writing it, what surprised you as an author doing the
Mm,
research and compiling it? Because for me, for every book I've written, I thought I knew about it when I started.
yeah,
But when I finished, I was like, wow, that changed me. How did it change you, what you learned?
that's such a good question, because and no one's ever asked me that question. And there was one thing in particular that was like shocking to me. And that was, I mean, aside from the fact that I think there's that thought that subconsciously writers write the books they need for themselves, especially self-help writers. So I probably definitely needed a dose of contentment in my life. But when I was looking at all these practices, self-compassion and gratitude and service and all of those things, and how not only did it translate to people being mentally healthier, it translated to people being physically healthier and living longer. And that's actually shown in the Harvard Grant study, that long study on well-being. It has a different name now, but it started out the Harvard Grant study. I was like, why? Why was this? And it comes down to this system in your body called the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis,
Mhm.
which regulates cortisol in our systems. So when we're engaged in practices, long story short, that decrease stress, gratitude, self-compassion, all of those things, that system runs more efficiently. And that system is responsible for immunity in our body and very specific immune cells, some like the NK, natural killer cells, which are our front line for cancer defense. So those practices that we all think like, oh, it's a nice thing to do to keep gratitude journals.
Mhm.
No, they physically make you stronger because your immune system functions more optimally when we do it. That's why we see longevity for people who meditate, for people who practice gratitude. Stress and what it does internally, long term, in terms of inflammation and then the proliferation of disease, is serious. And just one quick example is they looked at cardiac patients after an event like a heart attack.
Mhm.
6 weeks later, those who kept gratitude journals had lower rates of inflammation. A gratitude journal, right? We're not talking about drugs. We're not talking about like exercise, gratitude. So that shocked me because I had always wondered, like, why does this happen? And then finding out a little bit about that, I'm like, why don't we all talk about this all the time, So, and in that sense too, these practices are preventative for health events as well. So, and there is more research coming out on that. So that really did shock me.
That's fascinating. I've been on a journey this past year with my health, and one of the factors in my health was stress. So I got a stress monitor for my watch and realized when I felt great, I felt happy, I'm zoned in with
Hmm.
work, my stress was off the charts. Like my watch is like, "Are you about to die? Are you okay?"
Interesting.
And it took me
Interesting.
months of identifying what was going on physiologically with my body that kept me in a state of fight or flight, even though through the day
Mm,
I felt great.
yeah.
And I started working on it in April. We're recording this now in October. And it wasn't until September I got it under control. And I'm in the green zones now. But it was a long process of figuring out what was going on.
What
And
was going on?
it was past stuff, past trauma I hadn't worked through.
Mm,
And
okay.
me as an Enneagram 7, I'm going to work
Mm,
hard. I'm not going to worry about negative things. I'm going to keep going. I also read a book called, I believe, I don't want to mess up the title, Heart, Breath, Mind by Dr.
okay.
Leah Lagos, who I'm going to have
Hmm.
on the show soon. And she taught me a ton about breath work in that book
Mm,
and the importance of belly breathing throughout the
yeah.
day to calm your body down. So little things like that. Ashwagandha at night, that
Yeah.
helps
Oh, yeah.
manage cortisol.
Hmm.
But it took months and months and months of tracking the data and getting the Aura ring and comparing and making sure the data was right. It was really my hobby for a few months, and it's been fascinating.
Wow. Good for you for doing that work though. But it's interesting because a question that I get often is good stress good for you? Because a lot of times when people are high achieving, they're doing it, but it's coming at a cost to their bodies. So yeah, good stress is still a stress response in your body. And then it's also for high achievers, we feel good when we're accomplishing, right? No matter what it takes to accomplish, but your body takes a hit. Yeah. So the goal would be to figure out how do we do that and do it in a healthy way where we're actually sleeping. And some people feel like those things are mutually exclusive. Like we can't reconcile those two things. And in that case, we have to look at how much value then are we putting on accomplishment if we can't function like healthy human beings, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that needs to be turned down a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. What do you think we get wrong about contentment?
Mm. Oh, that's a good question. What do we get wrong about contentment? Is that it's settling. I think that's a big one. That, if I'm content, I'm not pursuing goals. If I'm content, I'm just going to settle for whatever it is right now. And that's not the case. And actually the research points to the contrary, that people who are content actually get to their goals faster because and the research in self-compassion really illustrates this. And that's because we're able to work through obstacles quicker when you can balance achievement with such a profound sense of gratitude and appreciation. In the book, I talk about if happiness is having everything you want, contentment is wanting everything you have, really being rooted in that. It's almost like you're driving a car. It's like you can stop and appreciate what you have, really allow that to fill you, and then use that to kind of move forward towards your goal versus running on empty. I'm just going to push myself towards getting this goal and then think I'm going to be happy when I get there. And then we all know, the goalpost moves. We figure out, oh, there are challenges here too. Yeah, this is stressful too. This is actually more stressful than I was before, when I didn't write a book, right? So now I have to write another book. So, and that type of chasing the carrot cycle, you end when you actually can step into contentment. The book was really helpful for me, and I recognize it. And I don't know if I'm just like older and like I don't have the energy. It's because I need hormone replacement therapy right now. But
We'll talk when we're done.
right. But I always, and I firmly believe this because I've really figured out what I need for contentment in my life and how I need the balance that I actually need to feel peaceful and content. All these things, all these opportunities that God is bringing to me, I'm so grateful for. But if they end tomorrow, it won't affect my contentment. It won't. I'm like, okay, that season's done, but I still have what I need to have a meaningful life. Like someone else can't control that. They can't. What they do for me or against me doesn't affect that. That is here. That I'm holding on to that. I know what that is.
Amen. That's good. That's really good. I
Mm.
love it. I mean, we could talk literally about every chapter of the book. It is phenomenal, phenomenal.
Thank you, Allie.
It taught me so much. It's so entertaining, and to get education and entertainment right, it is a
Mm.
wonderful balance for an author. My last book was a book about motherhood called Remaining You While Raising Them, and it was really a love
Yes.
letter to moms to, hey, quit letting yourself die on the vine.
Yeah.
If you want great things for your children, be good to yourself. And
Yes.
you have a piece in today about why women should prioritize themselves. And I
Mm.
loved it. Definitely of the
Oh,
same thread. Tell us why women should prioritize themselves.
yeah. I mean, I think a big one, and especially for someone, as you know, I have 4 kids, 3 daughters, 1 son. They are internalizing what is normal, what will become normal in their life. And normal does not equal healthy, right? So fundamentally, I think we should prioritize it because it's stewarding our life and our gifts. And we're able to then step into our purposes more fully when we can prioritize our needs. And everybody benefits from that. That's saying, if mama ain't happy, no one's happy. I mean, that there is truth to that, right? But I found in practice, that's not enough for women to motivate them. It's not. And like you said, they're going to die on that sword, right? For whatever reason of martyrdom. When I think about what I want for my daughters, when I think about the type of husband that I want my son to be to someone one day, to his wife, I know that I have to model that. Taking time for yourself, being able to come into situations feeling balanced and equipped.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen without intention. It doesn't happen without prioritizing yourself. And prioritizing yourself does not mean sacrificing everybody else's needs. It does not mean you're on a girls' weekend every week. You know what I mean? So
Well, that would be great.
it would be great. And I have friends who are empty nesters, and that's their life right now. Good for them. It doesn't mean that, but it's looking at yourself every day saying, what do I need today? Actually asking that question. It can be as simple as that. Yeah. And then identifying your needs and saying, you know what? I need not to cook dinner tonight. Like, I need to order pizza tonight and I need to go to bed early, and they're all going to live. Right. So I know last night, one of my daughters, she didn't like the soup I made. She has like a texture thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like, okay, let me think. What can I give her that's nutritious and healthy and whatever, And she goes, you know what? I had a cheese stick early and I'm eating piece toast. I'm good. And I was like, okay, great. You're good. One night, even 2 nights, 1 week, whatever. You're not going to die if you don't have like all your food groups right now. Right. So it's okay. It's okay. And normalizing that for women, I think, is really important.
I think it's good. Yeah. I mean, I really had to position all of the points in the book for women that this is going to benefit your children if you take care of you. Because I knew if I didn't position it that way, that women would be like, oh, I don't think so. I'm afraid I'm going to be selfish and then I'm going to turn into a bad mom. When one of the things that inspired me on this health journey I've been on the past year was the research I found that women not only take care of their kids' health needs first, their spouse's health needs first, their in-laws' health needs first, but their pets' health needs before their own.
Wow.
And that's when I went, all right. Yeah. Let me see how I'm doing. But yes, it doesn't make us selfish. It makes us great for us. And we are worthy of that. Again, the worthiness issue, but also it benefits everyone around us, which is really the theme of the show and why I could talk to you about every single chapter. I love it. But people can buy your book. They can read your amazing book. I have fun questions for you. Number 1, what's your Enneagram number?
Okay, so I've never fully done the test, but everybody who knows me knows that I'm a 3 with a 2 wing for sure. Yeah,
that tracks. Everyone told me I was a 3, but I'm actually a 7. So I would recommend taking the test just to find out.
I will take it.
Yeah,
I will. Yeah, I will. Yeah,
because you never.
I wasn't sure if I was an 8 at one point, but I think that's hormones. I got a little confrontational.
Fair, actually, I would say.
Can it change in perimenopause? Well. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I remember at one point being like, I think I'm a jerk. I'm normally a jerk, but I'm pretty sure I'm a jerk right now. So yeah, definitely perimenopause hormones. Okay. Yeah. What about a song that you're loving right now?
I am going back to college to my Indigo Girls phase. I love it. And it reminds me, I went to school in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. We used to drive around in the fall, and now it's the fall in New England, and it's so beautiful. And I've just been playing it all and every Indigo Girls. It just fills my soul. Yeah.
Did you love in Barbie when they sang Closer to Fine? Because I felt like I was back in.
Yes, exactly. That moment. Yeah. So my kids were like, what? Now they know it from the Barbie movie, but before that's like, what?
Yeah, the fact that the stuff that we listen to in college is classic rock now is a little bit painful, but whatever. Not bad.
Classic rock. Wow.
Yeah, hearing Dave Matthews in a gas station will never be okay.
Wow.
What about a TV show or a movie that you've enjoyed?
I really love the movie Inside Out too, as a therapist.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
I love it. And I feel like everyone who has teens needs to watch it with their teens and have a conversation about it. And it makes those emotions so much more accessible and understandable. So that movie I love. But I will say I have now, after yesterday's segment, been encouraged by a multitude of people to watch Outlander, that
Oh,
series,
I've not seen
because
it.
me either, but the guy on it was in the segment right before mine
Mm-hmm.
and walked by me and said hello. And I got all these messages like, "Oh my gosh, you didn't take a picture? Like, are you kidding me? What's going on? What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I don't know who he was. He was like handsome, but like, yeah." So now I've gotten all, so that's the next. I'm gonna watch the show
Now
Outlander.
Outlander.
Yeah.
Okay, I love
I
that.
am watching I know you don't have much time, but
No, no,
Gilmore Girls with my daughters. Yeah. So it takes me a long time to actually watch series. That came out like, I don't know,
fair.
20 years ago. I don't know.
Well, I know Gilmore Girls is very popular with two of my son's girlfriends. So there's lots of
Okay.
Gilmore Girls gifts going to be happening, themed
Oh,
gifts at Christmas. Because I have five sons, it's all guy
I
stuff.
know you do. I know.
So
I know.
like we're watching like The Old Man and we're watching Lord of the Rings and like this is my whole life. Yeah,
I
the
love it.
Penguin. Totally
Yeah.
totally different, but that's cool. Now
That's so
speaking of
funny.
Inside Out, I
Hmm.
saw that with my teens and as an Enneagram 7, the way I relate to the world is I don't want to deal with negative emotions. So when Joy
Mm.
at the beginning throws all the bad memories, like throw them to the back of the brain, never think about them again. My sons
Yes.
are elbowing me because we're trying to have a household where we talk about what our emotional proclivities are, right? Like one
Okay.
of them is basically anxiety. The other one, well, I won't call him out, but I'm Joy, and her growth of incorporating sadness and letting bad memories be a core part of somebody and how important they are in sadness.
Yes.
Gosh, it was impactful to me. And I
You were
amazing.
absolutely Joy. You were absolutely like, I mean, even just meeting you face to face for the Stars on Your Joy. And take that as a compliment because as soon as anxiety came on the screen, all my kids were like looking at me, Mom, that's you. That's you.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
So I was like, no joy, no joy. No, it was like 100% hands down, all of them,
Oh,
your
such a good
anxiety.
movie. I want
It
Inside
is.
Out 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Yes,
9,
I
10.
know.
I will be there.
Totally.
What
And the
about
perimenopause version, we need to know
um
what those guys look like in our heads.
we
Yeah.
really do. I think it looks like nostalgia. That's what the perimenopause.
Yes.
Remember those days when we had
Yeah.
energy and could
Yeah.
sleep through the night? That's what it
And anger. They're just
Yes.
both on the control board, one after the other, those two.
Yes.
Yeah.
Until like HRT gets slapped on the control and
No.
everything gets better.
We gotta write that version, you and I. That's our next they need us as advisors. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay, what about a book that you're recommending to people other than your own, of course?
No, there's I mean, so many books. I'm a big buy the book and I'm gonna read it eventually, you know. But I recently picked up Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird, and I just feel like everything Anne Lamott says is so profound. I love her. Actually, I met her on the Today Show a couple months ago. Um, I never know who anybody is on that show. Like, that's why I didn't know the guy from Outlander. But I saw Anne Lamott was there and I told my producer, I'm like, I need to meet her. And he was like, okay. Like, I never asked to meet anybody. And she's that profound in real life, too. Like, just the 5 minutes we had a conversation with. So I would say Bird by Bird. And I'm going back to Sissy Goff's book, Worry Free Parent. I was reading that the other day, and she has this section on breath prayers. And even though I'm an anxiety therapist, like teenagers parenting, that's when the real parenting starts. I needed those breath prayers that night for myself. So I highly recommend that book too. Yeah,
That's
both.
fantastic. Good, good. What about a product? Something that made you tell a friend they had to have it.
Yeah. There is this, I don't even know if I say it right. Say that brand, they have this like it's just like not a bronze, it's like a cream that makes your skin a little luminous. I like that. But as a curly haired woman, naturally,
Mm-hmm.
my entire house, because everyone in my hair is curly hair, uses the product Curls Rock. It's like TG. It's this curl cream.
I use it.
Do you use it?
I use it. I use
Stop.
Curls Rock gel. No, the Curls Rock.
Okay.
It's in the blue bottle. It's kind of a gel
Yes.
cream.
It's like
It's
it's like
amazing.
white. Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, that to me is the holy grail for curly hair. And it's
Mhm.
not expensive. Every curly hair person I know, I mean, that I see, I
Yeah.
tell about that product. Girls Rock.
Oh, I have it on Amazon subscription.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah,
I
so
buy like
about it.
12 bottles at a time because I'm not kidding. Our entire house goes through it. I
Yeah.
think my one daughter goes through like a bottle a week because she has really long curly hair.
I love it.
So,
Okay, you are an absolute delight. Thank you for coming on the
oh,
show. I want you on the show
thank
every
you.
week, but you have a
Oh.
life and a podcast of your own. But tell everybody where they can go find you so they can get more of you.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. And I have another book coming out a year from now called All Is Calm-ish. It's essentially a therapist talking you through the holidays, and we're going to talk about contentment in that book. So I'd love to come back and talk about that
100%.
around that time. Thank you. But on my website, NiroFeliciano.com, on Instagram, Niro Feliciano, and I do write a column for today.com called Is This Normal? So you can do a search for me on today.com and my stuff will come up there too.
That's wonderful. Thank you again. You are amazing.
Oh, thank you, Allie. Thank you.
How great is she, right? I told you this one is special. I love this one. We really just got to talk about all the things that I'm so, so passionate about. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you took a moment to invest in you. Because, like I say, an investment in you and your emotional health, your physical health, your spiritual health, it's not just important for you, it's important for everyone in your life. And I believe in what's inside of you. I believe in your dreams. And I know you're making such an important impact on this world. That's why you're here, just learning a little thing, hopefully twice a week with me, because God created you to stand strong and bring something special and unique and important to this world that only you can bring. You're going to be tired. You're going to have days when you feel like you have no idea what you're doing. You're going to want to critique yourself. You heard us talking about it. National TV, I can't watch myself. She's worried about her hair. It's just life, right? You're going to have things that come up against you. The enemy is going to try to stop you from living the life that God has for you. And that's why I'm here, just reminding you you're worth it. Your calling is worth it. What God wants for you is worth it. And I love to get to coach you. I love to get to equip you every week. So keep stepping up, keep showing up, keep fighting the things that would hold you back, whether they are internal or external, because you know the truth. You cannot break a woman who gets her strength from God. I hope you have a great day, and I'll be back with you again in just a couple of days. I'm going to intro, but random curl. Let's tuck that curl in. Get in there, curl. Get in there. Okay. It was a great episode, if I say so myself, and we're out. Cut.